One of the primary issues we've been looking at here was news bias. It is often discussed within the mainstream media itself whether or not the news has a liberal or conservative bias. The scale in the background here is not tilting to the right by accident. In terms of economic policy, the news has a clear right-wing bias. It is of course in the media's own interest to appear as if they are being even-handed. There's no conspiracy here. There's no conspiracy required. For example, the Democrats are often portrayed as being liberal, and the Republican option, we are told, is conservative. So, if the news seems to give favorable stories about Democrats, the mainstream media itself asks, do we have a liberal bias? But as we saw, the Democrats are not a liberal party in the US. Indeed, they have been moving rightwards for the past 40 years or so. The Republicans have been moving rightwards too, and so the Democrats are left with the Republicans, but that does not make them liberal any more than boiling water is chilly because it is not as hot as boiling oil. To help drive this case home, let's look at who donates to the Democratic Party. These are some of Clinton's major donators. Alphabet Incorporated, a multinational conglomerate, major banks and financial institutions such as JP Morgan, Goldman Sachs, and Citigroup, and Morgan Stanley. Media interests such as Time Warner, who own CNN. It is also worth noting that Citigroup here picked Obama's cabinet for him. They gave him a list of people who were acceptable to them, and he picked almost exclusively people on that list to serve for him. These are the same people who donate to the Republicans. In fact, for the first time ever, in 2016, the Democratic candidate received more money from fossil fuel companies than the Republican. So, while the Democrats do not deny climate change, one should not expect to hear a strong anti-fossil fuel message from them either. Companies donate money to candidates for a purpose. These candidates are an investment, and they are an investment that pays off. In terms of the media, this means that when the news presents the Democrat and Republican sides, the two sides are whether or not nothing should be done about the climate, or whether almost nothing should be done. Whether the rich should get a tax break, or whether they should have a trivial tax increase. Whether nothing should be done to rein in pharmaceutical company profits, or whether a trivial mollifying action should be taken. For the corporations that fund the politicians, it's heads I win really big, tails I just win. Whether or not you also benefit when corporations benefit is something you need to decide. I'm not trying to say which position is correct here. This is just about analyzing the media. Many students resist this information at first for a few reasons. First, the media claims it is unbiased, and often that it has a liberal or left-wing bias. Also, we tend to think that because 2 points of view are presented, those points of view are balanced. After all, we heard both sides, right? Well, here are some other things to consider, and these are mostly reminders of what we have already covered. The media is owned by multi-billion-dollar corporations. In fact, 90% of all news is produced by just 6 megacorps that also are invested in and produce many other products. The media makes money through advertisers, and advertisers are also very rich corporations with conservative economic interests. Television and cable newscasters earn millions of dollars every year, giving them personal interests in preserving the economic system as it is. These are all incentive-based reasons to see the world in a particular way. No conspiracy is necessary here. I'm not going to go over all these points again in detail. This is just a reminder and summary. Here's where most of the mainstream economic news sits, whether it's from Fox, MSNBC, or CNN. The difference is degree and where in this circle it sits. Again, we are talking about economic spin and bias. Exxon and Time Warner do not really care about gay marriage or open carry or breastfeeding in public. They care about their bottom line. This is why economic interests are so much different than social interests. These are just some of the conservative think tanks that are often cited, usually without the media mentioning their orientation or bias, in service of protecting corporate interests. These think tanks are overwhelmingly funded by corporate and billionaire money. It is worth noting, by the way, that Obamacare was originally a plan constructed by the Heritage Foundation. a think tank that is about as economically conservative as one can get. They of course prefer not to have anything at all, but this was what they thought the mollifying option would be rather than have major changes that severely cut into industry profits. Now I want to be clear, I'm not saying that their policies are wrong. These modules are about being able to recognize bias. It's possible for the news to be biased in what you believe is a good direction. Maybe the corporate agenda is a great agenda and it works out in everybody's best interest. Maybe it doesn't. I do not have an axe to grind with this in terms of the class. The point is that even if these are the best policies in the world, as an individual you are well served by recognizing that a source is not neutral. You want to be able to honestly evaluate evidence. For example, while you often hear right-wing think tanks cited, you never hear communist groups or socialist groups airing their concerns in a serious way. In the 2016 election, there was a near media blackout on Bernie Sanders, and Sanders' European-style socialism isn't really socialism at all. The European nations he's referring to are free market capitalistic societies that just have more of an economic safety net and more social programs than the United States does. He's not advocating for government takeover of most industries. In terms of our peer nations, he's not a leftist, he is a centrist. Again, maybe these policies are horrible and destructive. Maybe they're wonderful. That is not my point. Even if I could tell my students how to think about these issues, I would not want to do so. That defeats the purpose of a logic class. The idea is for you to be able to leave here being able to better formulate your own opinions. The point here is only that you can't really evaluate the news if you do not understand where it is coming from, and the best way to understand that is to follow the money. So that is it. As promised, this was a very short presentation, but there was so much material I felt that summarizing the key motivations here was important. Again, as a reminder, economic interests are different than social interests, such as religious ideology or issues about personal reproductive freedom or alternative lifestyles. Those issues largely bypass the economy. Until next time.